Alright, so there's a couple things in here going on that I aim to rectify with this little project today. This kit right here is the K&N, what do they call those, FPIK? I think that's what they call them. But this box has never been happy for me, and they only used, down below this filter, there's 2 bolts that were used for the factory air box, and that's all they used. The factory air box would get away with it because it tied into the sheet metal, so it had 2 points of tie-in on 2 different planes. This one's only got that single point, so it gets loose at all, it wobbles, and it's just not my favorite. Now I also left a big old gap back there. Not sure how much hot air will get through there, but that is for the hinge mechanism to be able to clear. And looking at it, I think I can do something just a tad bit different and make it work better. I also have these 2 fuses, 250 amp A&L fuses off of the PowerMaster alternator from Install Gear. And miles ago, I lost one of the caps, and so instead of buying more caps, I'm just going to do something different. They're never watertight. I don't think they really have to be. It's more of a touch guard than anything, so you don't hit it with a wrench. But I'm going to take care of that as well. Also, one of the things I'll probably do is I'll probably remove this battery, and down in there is the stock. You can't even see it in this light, but the stock intake thing, it's right here. It goes down in there. I'm going to remove that and probably fill the rest of the truck cavity in there with foam, or see how far this foam actually got. May not need to add more. It's definitely foamed in around here pretty good. But yeah, so addressing this whole mess, and try to clean it up. So to do so, I ordered up some of this ABS plastic in 1/4 inch thick. I figured that should be enough to maintain its rigidity and shape in the heat of the engine bay. One side is smooth, one side is textured. I don't know what difference that'll make in this project. If I put textured out or textured in, I don't know if it really even makes a difference at all. But I'm hoping the plastic one will hold its shape to provide a little bit more insulation. I mean, just thin sheet metal that this is made out of. That's something of a heat shield, right? So we'll see. To get my shape, I'm going to use a little bit of cardboard templating, or cardboard aided design, CAD. To bend it, I'm going to use a couple pieces of angle iron and a torch. These pieces here are 1 foot by 2 foot. The largest depth I appear to have inside there is 11 inches or so. And you see it basically stays below, maybe a little bit above. The metal is below this plane of this piece of the fender, so if I keep everything below that plane, I should be alright. You can almost see up here where that gasket does seal up here against the sound insulation mat, heat thermal mat, whatever that mat is, with the insulation mat. So it seals topside, and I probably will pull this stuff off maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I might be able to use it, might not. We'll find out. Alright, with the battery out, you can probably see that whole plastic thing right here in the center of the spotlight. And you see right down in there, that little screw comes from the front side. So to remove it, you got to take out your turn signal. And you can see here's the intake for it right here. A lot of bug splatter in there too, which means that crap makes it into your freaking intake. Don't know that snorkel changes that much, but there is, right back there, that little 7mm factory screw. You pull that out, and this is no longer an intake. It looks like there's a Christmas tree deal. Oh, going upside down. Christmas tree deal right here. You pop that out. So that screw, that Christmas tree deal, I've got this little freaking sippy straw out of the way. And I say sippy straw because it goes down lower than the freaking intake is at. Which means if you hit water that low, you're going to be sucking water into your engine. That's why I want this gone. That's why I wanted the snorkel. Okay, so to get this thing out, I ended up pulling the horn off. It's just a simple bolt right there. Loosened up the battery tray by taking out that bolt and that bolt. I'm not worried about the other bolt that's under there. What I find surprising is the sheer amount of junk that was down in that, well, the inner fender well. There's the other cover to that install gear. There's a battery detritus, a battery hold down. Yeah, that's the hold down and the nut. All of it's there. Just been riding along in there. Washers, different bolts and things. Alright, I'm going to clean that out. But now there'll be no airflow from down there on up in. Looking at the foam, it's closed off the bottom pretty well. I could probably put another can right in here. But up in here it's pretty closed off too. So it's closed off within here that it's not going to get to the snorkel. So one of the things I forgot was to pick up a can of foam. So this is just going to be the way it is. I could probably sneak more foam in there later at another time. So I'm trying to remove the battery tray. I snapped that bolt clean off. My OCD won't let me leave it, even though I know there's two other bolts that hold that tray down. That is the battery. I want that off. So I'm going to drill it out, and then I can put another bolt in. And the way the factory did it, yeah, I already started one drill hole, but the factory has some sort of pressed in, welded in, spot welded, whatever it is. But you see there's enough of divot in that tray that I can put a regular bolt in there and be just fine. It won't touch the bottom of the battery. It won't cause a wear hole. Yeah, my OCD won't let me just leave that, so I gotta fix it. Here's what I'm talking about with the factory 2 bolts that hold down the factory air box, and that's all K&N used when they redid theirs. They leave a pretty gap underneath. It's not exactly stable. I don't like it, so I'm gonna change it. Those 2 bolts, they're 11 mils. This is fun doing this one-handed. I have played the game of tightening these a couple times here and there, and again, this box, for what I paid for this kit, a couple $100, whatever it was, this box left a lot to be desired. Alright, I need to disconnect that one. That's the breather for the air injector. Injects air into the exhaust that helps with the emissions, with stupid stuff, robs power. Playing around with cardboard to figure out general shapes of what I want, and I've got just enough plastic to pull this off, and I'm going real skin of my teeth down here to get the front piece, the back piece, that side piece, with a whole little bottom piece that I'm going to pull out of that scrap there. Notice I am going oversized here and here and here. And that will become clear as I build it why. Speaking of which, I need to add the same overage here. Alright, let's get to cutting. Alright, not sure how much that stupid little camera actually caught or not. It's marginal at best, but if it caught what it should have. I tried with this little torch at first, but we're dealing with a 1/4 inch thick. Dealing with 1/4 inch thick ABS. So that one was just not putting enough heat in there. So out came the MAP gas. And that thing, yeah, that put some heat in there. Go from side to side, each side. I used a couple scrap pieces of angle iron to hold it in and get me the bend across the entire plane. The vise wouldn't have been enough. Besides the fact that the vise teeth would probably leave marks in it. And then I was using this nice little piece of steel to flatten it all down from the top side because it's pretty hot to touch. These have still got a fair amount of heat in them. That's amazing how much heat that generates. But so I've bent all the sides. Took this piece in there, test fit it. Took the front piece in there, test fit it. Sliced off a few more of that. Used my plunge saw to cut those tabs off. Now it's going to be gluing it together and making the box. Then once I've got the sides glued in, I'll figure out how to get the bottom in there because I'm not quite certain the bottom sits exactly on the flush bottom. It might be up 1/4 or 1/2. But yeah. You can see the shape I'm getting. You can see I bent the tabs over so I'll be able to put a clear plexi over the top of it. I don't have any T-nuts or the plexi itself, so that'll come after. But yeah, I'll get all that in there. I want clear plexi on it so I can see inside there and see the condition of the filter. And that way I can tell if I need to pull it out and clean it or not, if I've gotten too dusted or whatever. Adhesives for this project, I've got some Bob Smith Industries MaxiCure Extra Thick Cyanoacrylic. It's CA glue. This is the thick gel stuff. So I'm going to use that to spot weld. I've got some of the old Instaset accelerator, so that'll cure. Once I know I've got it all together the way I want it, then I'll go and mix up the epoxy and do the entire seams with those epoxies. But between those two, I should get what I want. As far as I know, this stuff will also work with your basic Gorilla super glue too. And it says 10 seconds. I've had a lot more than 10 seconds. This, from what I've seen, when you spray this accelerator on, then it's instantaneous set. So first time playing with, I've played with CA glue plenty, but first time playing with accelerator myself. Definitely some differences. You can see what I've done to give myself some tabs for mounting. Folded that tab inside. All of that's going to basically make it mounted to the fender, whereas this one was to the inner fender well with just those 2 bolts. I'm going to have 5 different points of contact in there, besides it being a pretty snug fit. Also, one of the things, you look, I'm deeper but shorter with mine because I'm keeping it below the fender line. I'm keeping mine below this fender line. There's one up above it, so they make a tight fit. I'm not worried about fitting to the hood itself. I'm more worried about, I'm going to put plexi over it, so I will have to seal all the joints down there with the fender well. Just notice there's another hole I'm going to need that hole to the side. We'll figure that out when I get there and get it in. Interesting thing is I've played with a lot of plastic in my life. As a kid, I always built models from the time I was, 8 years old. That's where I first learned to spray paint stuff. This is the first time I've used that accelerator on CA glue, and it's making this one solid piece. It's like welding plastic together. You can see in there, it's like laying a bead weld in there. So we'll see. I don't think I'm even going to mess with the JB weld unless this starts showing signs of not holding, because it looks like it's welding that stuff together pretty well. If it doesn't, then I'll go reinforce every single one of those joints with JB weld at a later time. But for now, I think this will actually hold. Alright, let's get it into the truck. Oh, new power distribution idea. Coming off my alternator and going to the 2 batteries. Going to use an SMD block, because those install gear ones, you saw earlier how I lost one of the covers and ended up deep down inside the fender. Don't really trust those as much. Yeah, they got 360 of coverage for touch, but that's all you're really worried about here is touch. When you got that much power running through, you just don't want a wrench banging into it. So that'll be just fine. It'll keep most things out of there. And that should distribute the Power Master electricity to the Optima batteries. Alright, let's get back at it. A much more solid airbox than that stupid K&N one was, because this thing is solid to the truck. That CA glue seems to help pretty well. I need to get some plexiglass to make a top for that thing. You notice I'm sitting down below this line, so I don't think it's going to touch the liner up here. What else is there to say about this? Oh, I will need to seal it. I'll need to seal some stuff. I'm thinking you can see the light coming through back here. I'm going to need to seal that off with some silicone to make it a lot more, well, I guess waterproof, dustproof, whatever, so you don't have anything coming in from the bay. And then down in there where it meets up inside, I'll seal that off too. But that's all for another day. That's probably all I'm going to show from here. You want to see the finished product, keep an eye on Instagram. That's probably where I'll post. Because a piece of plexi top, all I plan on doing for that is drilling appropriate holes, probably 3 per side, and T-nuts from the bottom, and just bolting it on down. I'll find something for a gasket material too, but that's all I'm going to end up doing with it. But after all this work, it should mean that now the only air this thing draws will be cold air from the snorkel. So it should be a true cold air intake. And that's the funny thing, little note here. You see this little rib ends right here. Well, that's a mark for where this spring mechanism stops. So K&N could have done this. They could have stopped it right there. They could have bolted it to the side of the fender here, same way I did. You know, I got the 3 screws inside there, 2 more down in there, so it's solidly on the truck. And I am liking that SMD Steve Mead Designs distro block. That is way neater looking than those 2 freaking fuse holders I had. So these are 2 250 amp fuses. That's a 200 amp alternator. Should be fine. If I had a spike that fried those, that would be out of the ordinary for PowerMaster. I've had these alternators, I've run them for years and years and years. Alright, I don't see any other tools left in here. I think everything is back to the way it should be with the new thing installed. Again, stay tuned to Instagram and you'll get to see what I've done there as far as the top. Yeah, I'll be the first to admit I didn't have all of the supplies I needed for this project. I just had most of them, and I got going and realized what I was missing, so we'll fix that later. If you're considering an airbox of your own, this ABS plastic and a simple map gas torch like that, basic cutting and drilling tools, you can do the same thing. Basic adhesives, yeah, that CA glue with the activator is freaking sweet, but you could do the same thing with just basic JB Weld plastic epoxy. So, alright, enough babbling. I'm hungry. It's time to shut this thing down. If you came this far, appreciate you watching. Hope it did you some good. Hope you got some tips and tricks for how to do something of your own airbox for your own vehicle. We'll catch you on the next one.